Hi, this is Michael Buffer, and welcome to the BoxHard Podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is Mikey Garcia.
This the monster from the swamps, Regis Rougarou Prograis.
Hey, what's up? This is King Carlos Molina, former IBF world champ.
This is Michael, the Bounty Hunter, 2012 Olympian and your people's champ.
This is Charlie Edwards, flyweight champion of the world.
This is Fast Eddie Chambers, and you're listening to the BoxHard Podcast with my main man, Joey Coastman.
Hello everybody and welcome to episode 239 of the BoxHard Podcast. I'm your host Joey Coastman. I'm joined this week by the former heavyweight world title challenger, the man himself. It is of course Mr. Eddie Chambers. Eddie, how are you doing?
I'm good, man. How are you feeling?
Very good, very good. Obviously, we're all not in the best place right now with this coronavirus and all the rest of it. But that aside, everything is okay with me. And how about yourself?
Pretty good. Just taking everything as it is. Got to deal with it.
Taking everything as it is. So again, for those that are listening to me here, we're going to be quite unstructured this week once again. You know, we're not really rehearsing anything. We're just going to kind of babble, but not too much because myself and Eddie are known for we can just talk for hours, and no one wants to hear that. So we're gonna we're gonna try.
You actually might be surprised, Joe. Some of our conversations are actually, listen. I think a lot of people would like to listen to that. Believe me.
Yeah, hopefully, but we'll try to not keep them for too long this week. It's been an interesting kind of run, really, with the podcast. Like I say, since this lockdown and the pandemic came around. Obviously, I think the last normal show we did was I think it was the 12th of March we released a podcast, and we had Callum Johnson and Lee Selby on, and since then I've tried to do my best to deliver a different world champion every week really since. Just new guys that the podcast listeners haven't listened to before. So we had, of course, Stuart Hall, the former IBF bantamweight world champion. Then the week after we had Bermain Stavern. The week after we had the undefeated former British champion Zach Parker. After that we had former world champion Lou Duval. After that we had Jamel Herring, who's of course been on many times, and then after that we had Bones Adams. After that we had Randy Caballero, and then last week Johnny Nelson. As it stands right now, this podcast will be going out on Friday, which is a day late to usual, so I apologise that you're all going to be hearing this a day late. As it stands, not quite sure who the guest will be, but hopefully it's going to be another world champion that we've never had on before. Anyway, we're going to just discuss some fights, that we'd like to see when boxing does resume. But just I want to take a real quick trip down memory lane, just for a moment here. People may know this, people may not. Again, there's a lot of people that listen to the pod now that didn't listen to the pod back when it started in 2015, understandably. So basically, the podcast kind of started because, I like to share my opinions in boxing. I like to think I know a little bit about what I'm saying, what I'm speaking about. And, I just kind of thought to myself, at the time I was listening to a few podcasts and stuff like that. And I thought to myself, do you know what? If I started a podcast, I know a lot of these guys on a fairly personal level. I reckon I can get some good guests on. Now, all I could really think of at the time was, yourself, Eddie, Peter Fury, obviously, thanks to you, I kind of got close with the Furies for a while. And,
Right.
And and I just thought, right, so the first guest I ever had on the show was Peter Fury, and never in the world did I think that it would go on for this long, and we'd get on some of the names that we've had on over the years. It's just kind of snowballed, and I think we're on about, let me just double check, I think we're on about something crazy like 89 different world champions we've had on the show now, trying to get to 100, maybe even before the pandemic's over, who knows? We've got a few world champions in the pipeline. But yeah, I'm definitely not saying I'm definitely not the best interviewer in the world. I don't claim to be, but I'd like to think we get some of the best guests on the show for sure. I think that's unrivaled. But anyway, enough with the I'm blowing smoke up my own backside there, Eddie. What was you going to say?
No, I was actually going to comment on that and say, no, you're not too bad an interviewer, man. To be honest, you do pretty good. Bad. Seriously, I'm not trying to blow the smoke. I'm not trying to blow extra smoke up there, you know what I mean? But pause. But anyway, no, the reality of it is, I feel like you're pretty good on the mic, to be honest. You know what I mean? You have baseline questions you ask. You don't stutter too much when you talk. Everything's been pretty good. You get right to the point. I like it. So no problem from me. Thank you, Eddie.
But yeah, getting on to some of the fights that we want to see in by the time boxing resumes. Again, we're going to try to keep this not we don't want to be discussing for too long. We don't want to go off topic too much. But let's start heavyweight, right. Eddie. Obviously, the division you know best. I want to talk just briefly. Some people probably aren't going to like this, but Hughie Fury, I want to start with. He's a guy that started his pro career. He kind of threw himself in the deep end a bit. I mean, it took a while for him to take on the big fighters and stuff like that. Obviously, there was a lot of talk at the time. He's a young guy turning pro. Everyone wanted to see him step up. Everyone wanted to see him fight Joshua when he was about 23 or so, or 22. I think he's only 20. He's only about 23 or 4 now. What am I talking about? About when he was about 20, they wanted the Joshua fight then, because I think they'd had the same amount of fights or something crazy like that. But when he has stepped up against Joseph Parker, a fight which I felt Hughie Fury did enough that night, by the way. And then obviously he's had the losses to Povetkin and Pulev, no shame in that. But a lot of people at the minute are saying he's really boring, he's horrible to watch, he's not that good. Someone said it to me on Twitter the other day. I put a question out saying, can you name all the boxing Fury family, everyone that's boxed? And I don't even think you could probably name them all, Eddie, despite knowing most of them.
Probably not. But because I would think all of them did, so I would just say everybody. But go ahead. But no, go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't want to interrupt you.
No, you're good. I was just going to say, I asked that question and someone replied saying, who really cares? Only one of them's good. Obviously meaning Tyson. Wow. So right. that is the consensus, though, for a lot of guys. A lot of people think that Hughie Fury's not that good. So I want to ask you, Eddie, obviously you've spent a lot of time with him in the gym. Obviously it was a while ago. Right. Since then he's stepped up. But who do you think he can be out of the top guys that perhaps some people will listen to this and disagree with you, but you know more than those guys? Of
course. Well, I think, in my opinion, he's capable of being in there with any of them. Obviously I felt like he won the Parker fight. It was close, you know what I mean? Either way, go either way type thing, but I still thought he did enough to win, just as you did. The Pulev and the Povetkin fights were a little rough, you know what I mean? Different styles. Styles make fights at the end of the day when you look at his style and the way he fights. And of course, you got to think about this too. Floyd Mayweather, most people think he's boring, you know what I mean? But he's successful. He's figured out a way, and he's had some close fights too, to where a lot of people thought he lost, you know what I mean? So, but because he's undefeated and he's, money Mayweather, you know what I mean? They kind of overlook, his flaws or the fact that he's boring, quote unquote. And I think with Hughie, because he's not, he hasn't won a world title. He isn't super, super famous. Even though it's being attached with Tyson, he's still very, very good quality. I've said that since he was 17 years old when I first sparred with him. I said, he has a great chin, and he understands, he knows the way around the ring. You know what I mean? And has great boxing ability. You know what I mean? But the thing is, everybody in, a lot of casuals are not going to see it and enjoy that part of it. You know what I mean? Some of the stuff that he does, the switching, his head movement, even for a guy 6'6", that heavy, you know what I mean? To be able to do some of the things he does, you have to give credit, to that he has ability, you know what I mean? That he can do things. It's just that I feel like sometimes he's a little, not slow, but slow to get started. And when you have a busy guy in front of you or a guy who knows he can hustle, you know what I mean, to throw some punches and get him off, even if he's not landing or not being as accurate, the judges are going to lean to him. You know what I'm saying? I feel like that's what Hughie's been a victim of with a lot of these fights. And with Povetkin in particular, I can kind of attest to it, even though I felt like I gave the fight away at the end of the fight with Povetkin. He is the kind of guy that will hustle. If you allow him to get busy and just throw punches, even if they're empty punches, you know what I mean? Then he'll just, he'll start to, he'll actually win the fight that way. Like I said, I can attest, you know what I mean? I was in there winning for 12 rounds, and I felt like I had the first 5 or 6 rounds in my pocket, and I came off the gas. Understandably, I wasn't properly prepared, and it showed, but he realized it and saw that I was, basically had my hands in my pocket and took over. And he wasn't so much doing things skill-wise that I couldn't handle, obviously. It was just he was busy, and he knew that I'm home, basically, and all I have to do is keep my hands moving, and if I'm out punching him, I'm going to win, which is what happened. So I feel like sometimes Hughie's a victim of that, and sometimes uneducated judges, to be quite fair. To be quite honest, I don't want to be unfair to the judges. It's like that's a tough job, but you got to see boxing for what it is, and you got to understand the criteria. And I think these guys who do judge the fight sometimes don't quite understand it, and they're literally looking for the guy who's the busiest. And I think that can be a problem for guys like Hughie. And to be honest, it would be a problem for Floyd if he wasn't so popular. But the reality of it is he is popular, and Hughie's not as popular as he should be. But to go back to what we were talking about as far as who he can beat, and I feel like he's in there with everybody. I feel like he has the ability to be in there with any of them. And if you want to say, okay, well, Wilder or even some of the guys he lost to, I feel like with a guy like Wilder, just has to be really, really careful. But he has the ability, without a doubt, to outbox him for 12 rounds easily.
Eddie, I tell you, let me just jump in quickly. I can throw some names at you. I'll go through like the box rec top 10, and just give me either just a short sentence or just even a who would you favour him against? That's the question. So I'll throw a few names at you. Obviously, we're going to leave Tyson Fury out of it, of course. But of course, him aside, who would you favour, Hughie Fury or Wilder?
I would favor Hughie in a boxing match. You just got to stay out of the way of the right hand.
So you think he beats Wilder?
Obviously. I feel like he has the ability to beat Wilder. You know what I mean? I feel like he has the style.
If you had, I don't know, if someone said to you, here's $10,000, you're going to put it all on one guy, you've got to back Wilder.
I would. I would bet. If I had money. But even then, I'll still put it on because I feel like I'm not saying that anybody could just take the shot. And I'm not saying that, but if he's smart and he's going to be smart. He's going to box smart. But if he does, he has the ability to avoid the right hand. Listen, how many guys was Wilder fighting? There's no disrespect to Wilder. Even Wilder understands this. How many guys was Wilder fighting that was less of a boxer than Hughie?
Loads.
That was winning the fight.
Yeah, it's true.
So that's what I'm saying.
It's true, but they all got knocked out in the end. So let me rephrase it. If someone has a gun to your head, Eddie, and says, pick the winner of this fight, if you get it wrong, boom, who you picking? One word.
That's messed up, Joe. You can't do that. You can't put me on the front.
I remember when I was out there, you put. I'm not going to bring up the situation, but I remember when we were driving along, and you were talking about if someone put a gun to your head about something. I ain't even going to bring that up.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Let's leave that back. But look, at the end of the day,
that's funny.
I'm watching the fighters. To avoid that right hand for 12 rounds is going to be difficult.
So you're favoring
gun to my head, I'll say he may catch him.
Okay.
I might have to say it.
All right.
That's the only thing. But he has the ability without a doubt. And even then, he has a good enough chin. I just wouldn't want to see it be tested in that situation. But all right.
Yeah, he's got a good chin.
Damn, you had.
Huh? Yeah, no, he has got a good chin, Hughie, for sure, and he can box,
really
definitely.
Really good chin.
Joshua, just give me one word, Eddie, because we're going to be here all night, though, if you keep...
Oh, no. He just can't let Joshua out-busy him, but he has the ability to beat him. So I want to go Hughie on this one.
Hughie beats Joshua.
Well, he has, like I said, he has the ability to, and if he's out there and he gets the opportunity, I feel like he can. I really do. I'm not trying to be just because I know him. You know what I mean? I don't feel like he could punch. I'm not saying he can't punch, but I feel like Hughie can take it enough. He has the ability over him. It's hard for me to say, like you just said, if there's a gun to my head, like I'm looking, Wilder is not going to beat him in a boxing match. And I don't think that Anthony Joshua honestly can outbox him either. I'm just, this is on paper, obviously. We're just looking at on paper, actually, you would have to say Joshua because, theoretically, but I mean, it's just, I don't think he can outbox Hughie. I really don't. They're the same size. Hughie's a better boxer. That's my honest opinion.
Usyk.
So that's a little tough because, like we just said, Hughie he starts sometimes a little slow, tries to box, maybe one punch at a time. He'll get behind on the cards.
Yeah.
With Usyk.
Yeah, I like that assessment. That's true there because these other guys that we've mentioned, Wilder, Joshua, they're going to be in front of you. They're not going to be, like Usyk, with the distance and all the rest of it. Let's skip Povetkin because we've seen that fight. Andy Ruiz.
That's a tough one. That's a tough one because Andy Ruiz is a really, really, really slick, fast-handed fighter. Hughie has to just keep him on the end of it. He's smart about and pick his shot. In this fight, he would have to pick his shots a little more than in other situations because he doesn't want to put himself in a situation because Andy Ruiz will punch with you. You know what I'm saying? So it's going to be tough. You know what I mean? It would be a very, very tough fight. But he can win a boxing match. He just has to keep at range. We already seen Joshua do it, and I don't think Joshua is the boxer that Hughie is. And this always happens. I know I'm not going to spend time on it, too much time on it, but there'll be a guy that'll come out of nowhere and they're like, where did this guy come from? He always was a good fighter. He had the ability. He just wasn't able to put it all together on the night. So Hughie lost a few fights. That happens. But he has the ability. He gets in there on the right night, he's going to beat somebody that people don't expect him to just because they don't know that he's that good. You know what I mean? Or they don't respect him that he's that good, Yeah. So, I mean, in that fight is rough, but if he keeps him on the end of the jab, he can win. He definitely can win that.
Both men had close fights with Joseph Parker. Both men had a real argument that they should have got the victory on points on both nights there.
The Andy Ruiz, aside from Usyk, is probably going to be the toughest one that I can think of, unless you got another one for me that I'm going to be like, oh yeah, I didn't think about that one.
I'm purposely going to avoid Michael Hunter on this little argument here.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea. Yes, please. Even though Mike is definitely in the picture up there, that
for sure. Dillian White.
I like Dillian. It's my man. You know what I mean? I got respect for him too. But Hughie definitely. You know what I mean? Dillian has gotten a lot better as a boxer. He's done some great things, and since the loss of Joshua, he's actually picked up his game a bit. You know what I mean? But once again,
I'd say, to be honest.
Yeah. Honestly, but even that, he's still, and I feel like sometimes I don't want to give away too much, but him being a little bit too straight up, lock-kneed, he has boxing ability. I'm not saying he doesn't. But he's a heavy-handed guy who wants to get into a fight. He does box some. I'm not saying he doesn't, but I just don't think he'll be able to do that same thing with Hughie because Hughie's game is to box. It's going to be very difficult for him to fight him at the game. I like Hughie in that. I know it might sound a little crazy and it sounds like I'm being biased, but actually I'm not. You see, I picked a couple guys that, you know what I mean, it might be, who knows. So.
And the last two, again, I was looking at the BoxRec top 10, but we've kind of turned it into a jumbled up top 10. But the last two, I know who you're going to favour in this one, and I'm going to agree with you for sure. A lot of people are going to think we're crazy or biased or whatever, but Derek Chisora, I think Hughie beats him.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. It's just, once again, and he just can't allow that face forward, head forward, busy style to let it get behind on the cards, which I don't think will happen. I think he'll outbox Chisora, without a doubt. And I like Chisora. He's what you see is what you get. Come forward, I'm gonna put my foot, where the sun don't shine kind of guy, which is cool. But I feel like Hughie can outbox him.
Yeah, it's not Hughie's game up close and personal the way Chisora likes to fight, and Hughie is sensible. That's why some people mock him and say that he's a bit safety first, he's a bit boring, stuff like that. His style is all wrong for Chisora, and to be honest, if I was Chisora's management team, that's probably the one guy I wouldn't want to fight, because I don't think losing to him's gonna get him anywhere. To be honest, Chisora. But then again, he's got quite a few losses. I don't think he even really cares these days. And the final one, it's a tough one to end on. I don't really want to end on that much of a tough one, to be honest. He's the number 10 guy though on BoxRec apparently. Let's just go with it. Luis Ortiz.
Oh yeah, that is a tough one.
Horrible
that is a very tough one. Because it's like, if he early Luis Ortiz, like earliest version of him, obviously he was probably still not young back then. That's what I'm saying. Like the earliest version of this guy.
John Fury was still fighting back then.
Isn't that crazy? That's crazy. But that's how things are. But with Hughie, man, whew. Once again, it's one of those situations you just got to stay out of the way of those shots. And at this age and at this stage of his career, it may not be a stretch, you know what I mean, to say, like back in, a little while ago, we would be like, nobody would even want to, consider a conversation about this. But I always would, because I felt like he had the ability. But when people have losses, like with Povetkin and with Pulev, it makes him like, oh, well, he's not this. Losses are a part of the game. It's just that everything now is predicated on undefeated records, and you gotta overlook that. People had losses back in the day. You know what I mean? The top 10 guys fought each other. That's why these things happen. You know what I mean? So him fighting Ortiz and winning, most people are like, you are crazy for even thinking of it. Listen, is it because Ortiz fought Wilder and almost beat him both times? Well, we already said Wilder has been losing to guys that aren't even in the top 15 skill-wise, definitely, but ended up knocking them out. So that's to say that Hughie can't beat them just because of that? No. You know what I mean? We got to look at Ortiz for who he is. He's a little older now, or a lot older now. Hughie's still young. Hughie's still in the prime of his, his career. Maybe not even there yet, because he's still fairly young. It's not a stretch to say he could have a good shot in there with Luis Ortiz. It's not a stretch. I don't know that he wins, but he definitely has the ability to outbox him from range. He just got to stay out of his kitchen. He can't walk into that southpaw left hand and those crazy big shots that he throws.
Yeah, because
I don't know.
Go on, sir.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead. No, go ahead. I'm listening to you. I got you, Joe.
No, I was just going to say, because off the top of my head, I can't even remember Hughie boxing any southpaws, really. So to box someone as tricky as Ortiz, even at this stage of Ortiz's career, it's a tough fight. He definitely doesn't knock Hughie out, no way. But he could out-fiddle him. That's the word, out-fiddle him. He could out-fiddle him over 12, maybe.
Maybe, because even though he's tricky, he still is right there. You understand what I'm saying? Now, you gotta think about this. He's right there, southpaw and all. He's still right there. Like when he was fighting B.Y. Jennings, he was right there. He just was able to land bigger shots and was a little more crafty and was able to land that southpaw right uppercut and those different shots. You know what I mean? And that's how he ended up winning. But the idea of B.Y. being in the fight, he was in the fight. He would win every other round, but every single round that he lost, he was getting hurt in. Do you understand what I'm saying? So it's like, if you're able to deal with the tricky, crazy southpaw style that Ortiz has, he's not as quick as he used to be. He's just powerful, but he's not as quick. He has obviously the smarts, but you just gotta stick to your guns and stay at the end of that jab and lose a lot of feints and understand the southpaw style a little bit too, which I expect him to be able to do, especially as being a pro. But like you said, he hasn't had many southpaw components. So what can you expect?
Okay, so it seems like we've spent literally all of part one discussing Hughie Fury, so I hope that no one's too annoyed with us. But just before we bring in our sole guest on this week's podcast, the last question I've got for you, Eddie. Maybe you didn't, I don't know. But when you was over here, obviously you sparred a whole heap of guys. Did you ever spar or meet Tom Little? Do you remember him?
Tom Little.
Maybe not.
Wait, I think I did. I know. Damn, I might have. I'm almost.
Maybe.
Because I sport so many guys.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
I think I did. I'm not sure. Oh man, I was hoping it was gonna be something I could definitely tell you, but I can't remember.
It's cool. All right. Yeah. Anyway, just before we wrap up part one, the final thing to do is to welcome our sole guest on this week's podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the former WBC Light-Welterweight world champion. It is, of course, Mr. Junior Witter. Junior, welcome to the show, my friend.
I see it.
So, Junior, a typical opening question, really, one that I, like to often start with in these types of interviews. Where did your interest in boxing sprout from? What's your earliest memory?
Oh, my earliest memory. I think it's probably watching Sugar Ray Leonard.
Sugar Ray Leonard. You was a big fan of his?
I wouldn't say I was a big fan, but I was a fan.
Yeah. And obviously, you boxed as an amateur for a while. What was your amateur career like, Junior?
It was good. A lot of fun. 120 contests. Won about 80. Yeah, had some good times.
And of course, your pro journey began on January 18th, 1997 at the Greenbank Leisure Centre in Derbyshire. Do you remember much of your debut?
Oh, yeah. Definitely. What a night. That was an interesting night. Let me have a look. I was supposed to be on third on the night. And then, actually, I was supposed to be on second. Then they moved me on to third. The person who were in second fight got knocked out badly, so the ambulance took him away, and they've got to wait for ambulance to come back before they could continue. So my fight got pushed back from third to live swing to last. So getting gloved up and ready from the first bell, and then everything getting just put back, and then I boxed at the end of night, which was not the best preparation.
No, that's what I'm saying. I mean, it's crazy looking back because obviously, you got a draw over 6 rounds against 8-1 Cameron Rayside, and it's just mad how boxing's changed because not often now would you put someone in on their debut with a guy that's 8-1 in a 6-rounder as well,
The Midlands area welterweight champion, and he lost the one on a cut. So really was, and apparently from all accounts he was winning the fight, but he got a cut. Rules were different then. If you got a cut and you could continue, you lost.
Yeah.
Now, he didn't go for scorecards. So, from all accounts, he was winning that, so really it was 9-0.
Yeah.
But Brendan had belief in me. 6-3s in the debut, and it's like, when I look back at it now, it's just, I got thrown in.
Yeah, you did.
But Brendan had belief in me. I went in. I beat him up, by all accounts. I dropped him in the second. Ref picked him up, didn't count it, hit him straight left, right. Some of his fans rushed the ring to get me in the same round, end it round. And they got stopped. Well, one of them got stopped at the actual corner post. The other one jumped on the ring, started swinging for me.
Wow.
Till security pulled him off. Carried on. In my eyes, I won 5 out of the 6 rounds. I probably gave him the 5th round. I came back and won the 6th. And I got a draw.
Yeah, insane. And, you had another 6 fights in the remainder of 1997, winning all of them. Again, though, your opponents weren't knockover jobs, to be honest. Again, as you say, you were kind of thrown in a bit. You beat some good guys even straight away in your first year. Then you start the year 1998 pretty much the same way as 1997. Another draw, this time to Mark Ramsey at the Grundy Park Leisure Centre. What do you remember about that night, Junior?
It was a good fight. Mark Ramsey, good fighter, better than his record suggested, a lot of experience. Plus, he used to be at Brendan's, and you just know when you got that, the feeling is, I'm going to give it to this kid because I used to train with you, so your lad's getting it tonight. So he came on, he put it on me, I put it back on him. referee on the night, I think I rubbed him up the wrong way. And in the end, they gave it a draw, and I'm just like, I won that comfortably.
Yeah.
I won it. Yeah, I mean, it was a comfortable win. It should have been a comfortable win. Hard fight. I learned a lot from it, but that's just the way it goes.
Yeah. And, after that, you came back with a win over Brian Coleman before fighting Jean-Pierre Bergman in a six-rounder. Now, Bergman was a former world title challenger. He had an excellent record of 35-1 at the time, and that one loss came at the hands of Costa Tszyu. You were able to beat Bergman on points, and you served him up his second career loss. But that must have been a massive confidence booster at the time. I mean, I know it was only a six-rounder, but that's a massive win.
Well, he was the IBF number 3 in the world.
Yeah.
And I took it at 2 days' notice.
Wow. I didn't know that.
2 days' notice, they phoned me up and said, there's a fight on Saturday, you're going to get X amount, and realistic, when I'm looking at it now, it was a crap payday. But at the time, it was the biggest payday I'd had. So it was like, yeah, it's a lot of money compared to what I've been getting. But realistically, for who I was boxing, at that short notice, it was a poor payday. But I got in, and I just went through, because I wasn't even feeling 100%. Going into the ring, I had a little bit of a cold on me. And I went in, and I just went, yeah, I'm just going to go out, I'm just going to box, I'm not going to stand, I'm not going to trade. He's a big puncher. Something like 27 knockouts on his record. And I absolutely just boxed his head off, switched, picked shots. I didn't get into a war with him. I didn't get into a big trade with him. I think in the last round, he hit me with one left hook, and I went, yep, back to boxing. Don't stand and trade with this guy. He's a massive puncher. And I just did what I had to, I just did that, and it's like, I think the thing is, because the boxing knowledge wasn't about, and I didn't actually realise what I'd actually done. Because that realistically is like someone saying, a novice of 8 fights now, heavyweight, going in with Dillian Whyte and beating Dillian Whyte.
Exactly, yeah.
I should have been a superstar from that.
Yeah.
But I struggled. It took me, I didn't get a British title fight for years after that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, like I say, you definitely didn't have the easiest of journeys. But, back to that card there that took place at the 9X Arena in Manchester. Great card, obviously. The undercard of Hamed Vasquez, and obviously you had Carl Thompson, Chris Eubank, Herbie Hyde defending his world title as well. Yeah, so like I say, pushing on from there, you beat another 7 guys, including former British champion Mark Winters, before getting that first world title attempt against Zab Judah for the IBF Super Lightweight world title. Now, Zab was 22-0 at the time the fight took place in Scotland on a Mike Tyson undercard. However, obviously it wasn't to be your night. I think you only had about 9 days' notice, if I'm not mistaken. You were beaten unanimously over 12. Tell us about it. Obviously a big learning experience for yourself, despite losing, Junior.
Massive. Massive learning. I think that's the night I realised how good the win over Jan Bergman was. Honestly, because it kind of, I knew I'd beat Bergman, but it hadn't sunk in till that night. And I got in Zab Judah, and I'd watched Zab Judah. He was pound for pound world champion. Everybody was talking. He was the biggest superstar coming over from America. Everybody was scared to death of him. And I got in, and I thought, yeah, you probably just nicked the first 6 out of the first 6 rounds. You're probably ahead. Last 6, but yeah, I mean, it took the end of it, so it's like, yeah. And I thought, well, it was closer than what they had on scorecards, but you shouldn't rip a title off a champion, yeah. So it's a fair result, and that fight taught me how skillful I was, and I was at that level. I was better than most people in the world at that point, but I hadn't had the belief to follow through with what I was doing. Again, so much from it, sat down in the change room afterwards with Brendan, he went, yeah, I mean, he says, you were 3 punches per round off winning the fight. 3 more punches every round, you'd have won the fight. And it's like, that is actually possible. Yeah. And I just thought, okay. And then he says, right, we're going to work on you actually letting your power go, working on bringing your power through. And I just let myself, I just got the belief in what I could do. I let the punches come after that, and consequently everything went well.
And, like I say, Zab Judah, that was such a big step up at the time. I've said this to many fighters, but I'm sure you believe in this. A loss early on in your career can either make you or break you. It seemed to make you.
Oh, definitely. A loss could definitely break you, and it definitely made me. It showed me the level I was actually on, which was the pinnacle of the sport. I hadn't shown my full potential, but I looked at it and I just thought I was that close. I was that close. I am that good, and it made me. It did actually make me. I think there's different ways you can make a fighter. If you bring them through steady, getting the right fight, getting the right publicity, that can make a fighter. But with me, I went in and I boxed everybody in everybody's backyard. I remember my fourth fight, going back a little bit further, I boxed a kid called Andres Panaya, who'd had 36, lost he'd had some like 18 months out, and another 6-rounder. And I took that fight at 2 days' notice. So I always had the potential and the ability, but getting that proper belief in how good you realistically are doesn't always happen just because you've had the wins. And with me, it took that loss for me to understand, to believe and realise that how good I really was. And from that, I went on that run of 15 knockouts.
Yeah, that's right.
14, 15. Yeah,
that's right. That is right.
And I just got the belief, and then I just let my power come through, and I knew I had the ability to outbox anybody realistically. So let my power come through, and I will get rid of people. And that's what I did. I knocked people out because I can hit hard with either hand of them. I let it come. I let the angles come. And from that, the belief really hit home within me. And then it all works.
Yeah, and like I say, we'll get into that in a second, but, you know, it is amazing. You went on that 15-fight knockout streak, which is incredible. But, you know, you came back only 4 months later after that fight with Zab, and you boxed Steve Conway at the time. And, you know, you gather another 6 wins before then boxing for the vacant British title against Alan Bosworth. Tell us just about, you know, the night you became British champion in Northampton. What was that feeling like at the time for you?
That was brilliant. Yeah, I mean, lifting the Lonsdale belt it's the one. It is the belt. It is the belt to win. Yeah. I know WBC is the best title to win, but the best belt is the Lonsdale belt. If you can get the British Lonsdale belt, there's something special about it. It holds a place in boxing history. It's iconic. Yeah. And granted, not everybody in the world can fight for it, but if you can, it's the belt to win. Yeah, the title's a stepping stone title if you're looking at on the massive picture, but the belt is unreal. And on the night, it was just, I was away in his hometown, in his home city. Everything was set for him. His promoter put the show on. Everything was realistically against me. If I look at the training, like Dominic and John were training me more than Brendan at the time, and they had Ryan Rose boxing on the same night, and they went with Ryan Rose night, and he was me, Brendan, and I think it was Simon or Nigel, and it's like, well, he's the favourite, and he's getting all, and Ryan's getting all that pushed, and he's getting Dom gone down with him on a Sky show and everything set up. I'm away on a small hall show, no TV, in the Lions Den, but I'm boxing a tough kid who's, they say, it's going to give me a really hard fight. It's 50, everybody's got it like 50-50. I might get to him later on, but I just went out and I just let it go, and it just felt right. I remember hitting Alan Bosworth with some shots, and he just stopped and he just kept coming forward and walking through them. And I just went, that's okay, you can have another one, and another one, and another one. And then I got a little chink in the armour, and I just jumped on him, pounced on him, and let the punches go. And it was like, yeah, it's my night, I'm having this. And it was one of those feelings that just like second to none.
Yeah. and that was knockout number 7 of the eventual 15-fight knockout streak. Obviously, the fight after that would be for the Commonwealth title in Mayfair. That would also be, like I say, knockout number 8. You pushed on once again, though, to the European scene, rather than going into a world title fight by throwing yourself in the deep end like you did against Judah. This time you went, the traditional route, as we mentioned, by becoming British champion, then Commonwealth, and like I say, the European title here, June the 2nd, 2004, against Salvatore Battaglia in Nottingham. Tell us about that night there.
Well, to be honest, it's not that I want to box for a world title. I just couldn't get one.
Yeah.
None of the champions wanted to fight me. The fight should have happened in Bradford on the fight before, and he pulled out on the day of the fight. Said he had gastric enteritis. So he came down, weighed in, and said he got gastroenteritis, fight were off. A couple months later, I get in the ring with him. And him pulling out, realistically, just gave me such a level of confidence in my ability and the fact that he was scared of me. You don't pull out in the last minute unless you're scared. Oh, there's got to be something other than, my stomach's a little bit upset. And he did. And I just used it as fuel, and I went out and I just knew that I was going to catch him. I was going to catch him early, and he was going to get it, and he did.
He certainly did. Like I say, the second round, as early as that. Obviously this was in the year 2004, so this was 4 years after the Zab Judah fight. Did you prove anything to yourself that night that you became European champion? Because I know that you went into that fight with Zab, like we mentioned, and you proved to yourself, hey, I'm good enough to go on and perhaps become a world champion. But like I say, it took 4 years to get a fight here for the European. Did you prove anything to yourself that perhaps that kind of further solidified the fact that you think, yeah, I really do have it, I really can push on?
I already knew at that point that I was beyond that level. In my eyes, I was beyond that level. And it just like, I'm just going to go blow this guy away. I'm not disrespecting him, but he's not on my level. And I just went, and for me, it was like, it was showing the people, showing the general public that I was on that level. But as a fighter for myself, it was in a way it's still frustrating because I wanted the limelight, I wanted the world title.
Yeah.
And he was like, it's just a stepping stone. I'm going to do this tonight. I'm going to get this, going to move on and become mandatory because I have to do. Having to do everything the long way around. Yeah. I'm having to win the British, becoming mandatory, win the next one, become mandatory, do the next one, becoming WBC mandatory. I remember at one point I was WBO mandatory for a year, and I never lost. This is within that win streak, yeah. And then I got moved out of the position, and I went from number 1 to number 3, and then from number 3 further down the rankings. And after that, I just stopped looking because I was beating everybody who was put in front of me, and last minute's notice and every challenge, and I'm moving down the rankings instead of moving up the rankings. I went from mandatory for over a year to moving out of the top 3, and it's like, what? Why? I've not lost to anyone, and you've not put anyone in front of me, and I'll give me the title fight.
Yeah, that is a strange situation.
I just knew how good I was. Yeah, it's a strange situation. I look at Dillian White and I think, yeah, it's a bit kind of like that, but at least Dillian's managed to stay within. He's still in that same spot, but I got moved down the rankings.
Yeah, that's crazy. It's like they must have had the rankings upside down when they were doing that, perhaps, eh?
Yeah.
So obviously you defended, the title just once again, Christophe Bienas. You knocked him out in 2 rounds before boxing in a WBC title eliminator against Lovemore and Du. Now you won the fight unanimously over 12, and Du brought your 15-fight KO run to an end. Though the fight was on that Hopkins Eastman undercard at the Staples Center in LA. Must have been a huge experience, that one, Junior.
Oh, unbelievable! Yeah, I mean. When you look at a venue, and like I boxed at NEN, and I've seen some big events, but when I got to Staples Center, it was just for me, it's probably, and that size capacity is the best venue I've boxed in. It wasn't like, like a step ladders. Not like at MEN, you got like step ladders, you've got the top, and it's like, whoa, it was really high. It just seemed to flow out, and it was wide, but everything didn't seem to be like up in the gods. It was like, yeah, you're a little bit further back, but you're not in the sky. And it was like, and I just thought it felt like a good venue, and the vibe was really good. But I went out, I boxed Lovemore, dropped him a couple of times. I broke my knuckle on my left hand when I dropped him first time, and yeah, I mean, it was a hard fight. And I think just because I dropped him, I got to about fifth round, and I could really feel it throbbing. And because of that, everything kind of just came off the boil. He came back into it, was making up ground, and then I hit him with a shot in the 10th, and it just took everything out of him. In fact, I hit him with a left hook in the 10th. And that, it might have been 10th or 11th, and that just put him in his place, and I just cruised over the finish line and won it comfortably. But my hand at that point was twice the size as it normally would.
Yeah.
That's something glove off.
Yeah, he was a tough guy, Lovemore, to be completely honest with you, you know? He
yeah. I mean, if you look at Lovemore, look at his career, he's not been, how many people dropped him?
Yeah, I know he was never
and
stopped.
Been with somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think if my hand if I hadn't broke my hand, I would have stopped him.
Yeah.
But that's just what you feel, isn't it? Yeah. Reality is, I didn't. Yeah, I mean, but I did drop him twice.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Not many people did that. But when you returned back to the UK, you defended your European against Andrei Kotelnik in Nottingham. Now that was a big win because Kotelnik, at the time had a record of 24-1. Just 2 fights earlier, where he took his first loss from. It was a split decision for the WBA world title, and then obviously Kotelnik would go on to eventually become a world champion himself. After you fought him. And he went on to box some great people like Gavin Rees, like Devon Alexander, Amir Khan, Maidana, of course. But tell us about your fight with him. Like I said, a big win.
Yeah, I knew he was good. I knew he was dangerous. But I'd looked at him. I'd looked at his style, and without a doubt, I underestimated him. And I took my foot off the gas just that little bit. I thought he's not that good because he doesn't do anything particularly special. Yeah. And I've fought a couple people who box him, and he doesn't. But he does everything just that little bit awkward, and he gets off with it. And he lands shots that you just think he ain't gonna land that, and he does. And he's one of those people who doesn't look as good as he is, and he was very, very good. He was a little bit sharper. He was on the ball. He was up for it. He was focused. I took it a little bit lightly. I got in there and I found it a lot harder work than I thought it was going to be. I loaded up just that little bit in some respects. I got through it and I knew I'd won it, but I knew it was closer than I wanted it to be. I expected to basically steamroll him, and no, the man was very, very good. But he was focused, he was on it, and I remember him talking something about it afterwards, saying when he realised he had to fight me for European, he was fuming because he says, of all the people, this is the one I don't want. Yeah. It's the most dangerous guy that he could see. Yeah, and he says, why can't they get me an easier fight for European? But he got in, he focused, he tried, he prepared for me specifically. He had a game plan, he tried to execute his game plan. And I went in just that little bit cavalier, got in there and had to change what I was doing and make it work on the night. And it wasn't one of my best performances, but when I look back at it, it was a lot better performance than I got credit for.
Yeah. A much better win as well, like I say, because, like I mentioned, after that is where his career really did take off. 3 months later, you boxed Colin Lyons and defended your British, Commonwealth and European belts against him. You won the fight unanimously over 12. The fight took place at York Hall. You obviously boxed at York Hall a number of times in your career, Junior. And for me as a boxing fan, it's one of my favourite venues to watch boxing at. However, it must be a totally different perspective, obviously, stepping in the ring there. What did you make of boxing at York Hall? Did you love boxing there? Did you hate boxing there, perhaps?
Absolutely love it. Absolutely love it to bits. First time I boxed there was amateur, and I boxed Dean Francis, the late Dean Francis. So I boxed him for the welterweight title in 1990. So the place has always had that. Cause first I won the British title. It's always got that place in my heart where I achieved so much in that venue. Yeah. So I had that. And when I boxed Colin Lyons, it was good to be in the venue. It's one of those venues, it's basically everybody's on top of you. And you feel the crowd. And the thing with York Hall is the people of York Hall know what they're on about. The crowd there don't care what the commentators are saying. They've got an opinion, and they've got an educated opinion about boxing. So when you're going there and you're all flashing, it's just because you've boxed a load of nobodies and you just hyped up to the maximum. You don't get the respect because they know what they're on and watching. And I go there and I get respect, and that's why I like the place, because it doesn't pander to popular who's favourite at the time. I mean, the way the world used to be. Whereas now, the whole world's a different place. It's all about social media. But back then especially, it was all about if you could actually fight, they knew you could fight because they watched their boxing. Yeah. So for me, it's a brilliant place to box. So when you get in the crowd on you, against you, with you, no matter if they're for you or against you, at the end of the fight, they give you a level of respect that you don't get in most venues. And that's why I love boxing there. It's a special place.
Yeah, it really is. It's like I said, it's one of my favourite places to go. Whenever you go there, there's always an absolute belter of a fight as well. There's always at least one, every single card that's on. There's always one crazy fight, full of atmosphere.
There has to be, because the crowd there won't turn up to watch just because you've got a 55 knockout streak and you box nobody. They're not going to turn out to watch you. Because they want to see someone who can actually fight.
Yeah, no, it's a brilliant venue, like I say. And, that Colin Lyons win bounced you into your world title shot. DeMarcus Chop Corley, a guy that's been on this show in the past, he was in the opposite corner for the vacant WBC world title. Now, the fight took place in Wood Green. Tell us about the night your, I'm sure, boyhood dreams came to fruition there, Junior.
It was all very surreal. And it's like I'm watching it while I'm living it, and I'm watching it, I'm living it, I'm just like, yeah, okay. And then, the night before the weigh-in, the press, everything's just going as it does with any other fight, and I'm just like doing my routine. I do this, I eat this food, I spend that much time, then I have something to eat, then I have a walk, then I have a drink, and I'm just doing my normal routine, and I'm not trying to vary anything at all. And I've done that, and I've prepared, and I've got in the ring, and it's just like, right, time to go to work. And then once the bell went, it was just, there were footballers coming to see me before the fight, and I'm just like, right, go away, because you don't come to see me every other fight. I'm not interested tonight. I've got work to do. This is my night. I need to focus. I did that, and once the bell went, it was down to business. And Chop's a dangerous opponent. He's been a world champion. He's slick. He's a counter-puncher. He doesn't make a lot of mistakes. I've got to make him make mistakes to punish him. I've got to draw him out. I've got to catch him with shots. And I don't know what round it was. Early on, about 4 or 5 rounds, I've half-clipped him with an uppercut, and it hurt him. And he just went into a shell, and he wouldn't. And I was just peppering, trying to get around his shell, and he just won't come out of it. And I was winning the rounds, and I'm breaking it down. I'm putting the rounds in the bag. And he's just not coming out of that shell. And I'm just needing him to come out of the shell so I can land something solid on him. And he was just extremely cagey. He's quick and he's powerful. And I can't go in reckless with him because he can punch. And he's been the world champion. He knows what it takes. And he just stayed in that shell, and I never managed to prise him out of that shell so I could hit him clean. And he took it and he got through and he went the distance. But, you know, you want that big finish. I wanted that big finish. But I wasn't being stupid. I wasn't risking it just to look good. I was making sure I got the win.
Yeah. No, like I say, you know, you mentioned he'd been a world champion. He had so much experience even then. I mean, he's still boxing now, believe it or not, but, you know, he had so much experience back then. You know, he'd been in there with Randall Bailey, he'd been in there with Zab Judah, he'd been in there with Floyd Mayweather, he'd been in there with Miguel Cotto. Did your life change after that in any way, becoming a world champion? Did that change your life at all?
Oh, definitely. Of course it did. But not to the extent which people...
Your feet didn't come off the ground kind of thing?
No, my feet didn't come off the ground. I didn't suddenly be coming down flat. I'm flying around the world in jets and Bentleys and Maseratis and whatever. My feet stayed on the ground. I stayed in the gym. I kept training. Of course, your life changes in respect of you do go to more places. I got more opportunity to see more stuff. But at the same time, because my feet stayed on the ground, I had to turn all this stuff down. I remember a mate said, "Oh, we're going to GLS concert, and we're going to go backstage and go and meet them." And I just went, "I got training money. Tell me how it went." And that's what I did. I still managed to knock a lot of stuff on the head that seems really good to do and you like to do, but at the same time, I've got to be professional about what I was doing. And I looked at it and I just thought, because of the hype at the time, the way the media was around the boxing, the way the reading was around me, I knew I had to keep hold of everything. I couldn't afford to slip up. So I just had to keep hold it down and do what I had to do.
And yeah, you'd go on to defend the belt successfully twice. The first defense was against Arturo Murua back at the Alexandra Palace in Wood Green. You know, you knocked him out in 9 rounds. Then, of course, you boxed former world champion Vivian Harris at the Doncaster Dome. You stopped him in 7. Do you want to tell us about both of those successful defences there, Junior, before we move on?
Yeah. Well, Arturo Murua, tough Mexican-style fighter, comes forward, throws a lot of punches, takes a decent amount of shots, but it comes forward and it puts it on you. And I'd watched a little bit of him, but I'd not really studied it because you get different fighters do different things. I'm not the type of fighter, I wasn't the type of fighter who studies his opponent throughout. I basically got a vague idea of how you boxed and watched a couple of rounds of your fights and this, and then I went from that. And I watched a couple of his fights, and he just comes forward, blocks shots, takes them, throws and puts it on you, makes you work and grinds you down. And I looked at it and I thought, okay, that's what I've got, not a problem. Did my normal thing, my normal training. I got in the ring and he tried to box me. And to an extent it threw me, because I'm expecting to come forward and be himself. And he wasn't. And I think he realised that if he came forward, I was going to clip him early, and I took him out. He stayed pretty much on his back foot and he tried to box with me. And I was just a little bit more cautious because he wasn't doing his normal thing. I took my time. I outboxed him and I beat him down. And then about 7th round, I decided, well, I've done that. I've got it in the bag. I've won 7 rounds. It's all right. I've got to start put him under pressure and see what he does, because I'm not expecting a fight here. Come on, you need to fight. And he just continued to want to box until I caught him and took him out. So it's weird for me. If I didn't actually look at him as much, I'd have probably got rid of him sooner. But because I looked at him a little bit more than I had done, because it was my first world title defence, expecting people to come out basically at their best, at their peak, And because he came out in a different style, it threw me that little bit. And if I hadn't watched anything of him, I think I'd have gone out there and just blown him away earlier. But no, I went out and I won it, and I was happy enough with the stoppage. And then when it comes to Doncaster for the Vivian Harris, and I look and I think everybody at the time was scared to death of Vivian Harris.
Yeah.
He was the most feared boxer on the division. Yeah. He could have boxed Hatton, he could have boxed any other champions, but he wanted the WBC belt, like I always do. So he picked me. So he came out. All betting was on him to knock me out. Former world champion. He's had his blip. He's back on form. He's destroying people again. He's a big American, and he's 6 foot, and I'm 5'7". So he's got like 4 inches on me, 4 inches reach, 4 inches in height. And I just went, yeah, not bothered. But I hurt my foot. I had about 5 weeks before that, 6 weeks before that, 6 weeks. I twisted my knee and I couldn't walk for 2 days. So I used to have physio on it every other day for like 2 weeks and getting through it. And I just it felt focused me. I forced myself into making myself train, make myself be the best I could be. And I went out there and I just let him have it. Yeah, I mean, it was a brilliant fight.
It really was. Like I said, would you say that's probably your most impressive win?
Definitely.
Yeah. Definitely, yeah. And then, of course, that brings us to your third title defence. However, this one wouldn't be your night. You lose a split decision in Nottingham to Tim Bradley. May the 10th, 2008. Tell us about that night there, Junior.
It was...
By the way, let me just say, I was quite shocked.
Yeah.
When you look back, you remember some of the great Americans that come over to here to fight you, like Zab, like Tim Bradley. Like, it's just, I can't even imagine Tim Bradley being in Nottingham, you know? And, you really brought the names over, like I say, and then you went out there and fought in the States. It's a brilliant record you got. Sorry, go on.
Thanks. The thing with Tim, when I boxed him, he wasn't mandatory. He was the kid who was coming over to beat me, and I wasn't focused. My mind was not on the job, 100%. My dad got cancer in January, and the fight was supposed to happen in January. The fight didn't happen until May, as I said. My dad didn't start treatment until the Thursday before the fight. It was my dad's first chemo, and that's where my mind was for the whole training camp. My mind was simply on the fact that Dad's got cancer. I want him to live. And that's where my focus really was. I was doing my job. I was going out. I was doing the work. I remember one session I got up in the morning, did a session, finished the session at 9, drove to Bradford, picked my dad up, took him to doctors, spent all day at doctors with him, come back, dropped him back home, drove back to Sheffield, did my next session and went to bed. And that was kind of my camp for that fight. Not all the time, and I'm not saying I picked up all the time, but I spent most of my time thinking about my dad, my parents, my mum, and what happened with them, and the things that went wrong with his treatment at the time. So I looked at it, and then about 3 weeks before the fight, I went, I peaked, and I knew I peaked. And I remember telling Johnny Nelson that I peaked. Probably like 2 weeks before the fight, and Johnny went, pull out. He says, your head's not in it. And I went, I've definitely peaked. Yeah, and he says, if you know you've peaked, you really have peaked. Yeah, just pull out, redo it. Yeah, and I just went, I'll be all right. I went, Tim's all right, but he can't box as well as I can. Yeah, I'm not bothered by his power. I know he's strong. I know, but I'm not bothered by it. I'm just going to. I'm not going to shine. I'm going to beat him. And I went out on the night and I boxed well. He was a little bit. It's not that he punches hard. His presence is really strong, and he's a little bull. He comes forward. He hits you with the head. Hits you with the elbows. A bit like Holyfield used to, and he's good at that. But technically, didn't impress me. He's got a decent chin. I caught him a couple of decent shots. He clipped me with a shot which normal, I wouldn't hit me. 99 times out of 10 would not hit me. It clipped me and the chin's really good shot. Boom. Went down, got up, and I just thought, well, that went nothing. Went through it, put him under pressure for the next couple of rounds. The fight finished, and I just thought, I've done enough. I've not shown, I've not become... It's not one of those fights that I'm going to want to watch again. But I've just done enough. And when it went split decision and went his way, I couldn't believe it. Because I'd done enough at home on my promoter show. I should get it. But it was just one of those things, and I thought, I couldn't believe it. But I wasn't bothered. I actually was not bothered on the night one little bit. I just wanted to go home and see my dad. But yeah, I'm going to go home and see my dad, not bothered. I'll come again.
So yeah, your mind really, really wasn't in it. My next question was going to be, did you feel you did enough to deserve the win, which you pretty much answered there. But yeah, I mean, he didn't really rip the title away like you mentioned earlier, you know. That's kind of what you feel like the travelling fighter should do. I mean, I always felt like Bradley was, just throughout his career, he was kind of underappreciated, really. I mean, he didn't have the most exciting style all the time, but, you know, he was underrated in my opinion. A hard man to beat, but yeah, you know, he was...
Yeah, definitely a hard man to beat. He's not particularly a pretty fighter.
No.
Yeah, he's not a pretty fighter, as in, you know, style-wise. But he was a very, very good fighter. I just thought I was better, as I'm accustomed to. I just thought on the night he didn't do enough. I thought I'd just won it by 1 or 2 rounds. So if someone said they'd given it a draw, I'd have been, well, fair enough. But I didn't lose it.
Yeah.
There's no way I lost that fight for me. But it went, they gave him decision, and I just went, not bothered, going home. Just want to go home, tired, not interested.
Yeah, and like I say, you know, they say that boxing's booming in the UK now, and it is, you know, but it just doesn't seem like many Americans come here to fight these days anymore. Like I say, you brought a few over yourself to these shores. It's just we don't really see that these days too much, to be honest, which is a bit of a shame. But you know, you bounced back with a knockout win over Victor Hugo Castro back at York Hall, and then there was that 9-month gap of inactivity before you went straight back into a world title fight. By this time, of course, Tim Bradley had been stripped. You were back fighting for your old belt against the then undefeated 18-0 Devon Alexander, another guy that's been on this show before. The title was vacant at the time. The fight took place in California, and funny enough, Tim Bradley was on the undercard that night. But tell us about the fight with Devon.
I think the fight with Devon, I looked at it and I just thought, yeah, okay. The biggest part of that fight for me was making weight. I'd not made weight since Bradley fight, because when I boxed at 10-7 for Hugo Castro Smith fight. Hugo fight. So I boxed at 10-7. I'd not made 10 stone since Bradley. So I think because I flew over to America, that all just threw my body clock slightly out. And making the weight the last 4 pounds absolutely drained the life out of me. And I basically just dehydrated myself just that bit much. And I think that's why my elbows went. But I came in there, I remember doing a warm-up, and you know when you hyperextend your elbow? I hyperextended my elbow there in the warm-up, rubbed it off, it got a bit better, got into the fight, and I think in the second round that went, and then 2 rounds later the other elbow went, and basically I was dehydrated. And I could now throw long hooks, short hooks, but I couldn't fully extend to throw a proper jab from about round 2. I couldn't throw. I think the left hand went in round 2 and the right hand went in round 4 or something, round 5. And at that range, he could just get them shots off. And he's a good boxer.
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
He's a class boxer. Yeah, I mean, if I were against a poor boxer, I'd have been all right. But I wasn't. I was against a good boxer. Boxing for fighters like it's world title fights. It's the bee's knees. So therefore, he was up for it. He was on it. He had no problems. And he came out and I just thought, I can't box how I want to box. I can't throw my arms. I can't throw a proper jab. I can't throw a straight right hand. I'm only throwing hooks, and I'm trying to hook against a very good boxer when I'm a boxer myself, and it just wasn't working. I come back to corner set of and I went, I can't throw my hands. I can't snap a jab. I can't keep it at range. I can't do what I normally do. I can't sit on the edge of range. I can't box from long range. I've got to try and get inside, and he's catching me on the way in. I'm getting some shots off, and it's close. There's not much in it. I reckon I could be one round up, one round down. It's something like that, and I just went, I can't do anything. Because every time I'm moving, I'm getting caught. He's coming forward. He caught me in a couple of decent shots as well. And yeah, I just like, I can't throw punches.
Yeah.
And that was it. Can't throw punches, you can't win.
Yeah, I remember when I spoke to him, Devon Alexander, I remember saying to him, you know, we spoke about the fight with you, and I let him know that I still don't forgive him for that night there. But, you know, you're out of the ring then for a year and a half. When you come back, you box in Canada against Victor Puy. How did that come about, going out there to Canada? Obviously not a night you look back on with the fondest of memories.
I don't look back at it at all.
That's the best way there.
I'd flag that from my memory. Mick Hennis at the time, and he had a promoter he was working with in the States called Adam Harris, and that's how the fight came about. Adam was like, yeah, come to Canada. I'll get on with Adam. And he wanted to put me on over there, and they had him. So the fight was set up, he arranged, he came over. Well, I went over and I got in the ring, and it was just a poor night for me. I'd had an operation on my ACL. I don't know how many months ago. About, I don't know, what was it? How long did I have that? It was over a year anyway before. But what I didn't realise was how much that actually affected what I was doing. And while I was boxing and at range and under no physical pressure, I was fine. But when it came to getting inside and getting a bit rough, my legs just kept giving way. And it wasn't a case of I was getting hit, I was just getting pushed over and just bullied. Because I was basically on skates. Because my knee was not as strong as I thought it was. And it needed more time to heal.
Yeah.
I think in the fight I ended up getting pushed on the floor. I probably went down realistically about 8 times, and none of them were a punch. Yeah. Every time if he'd pull me, and I could get inside a bit tough, leg just went, so I couldn't come forward, I couldn't go backwards, and he just like, if he pulled and pushed me, I just went over, and it got to the stage, and the referee was saying, I'm going to take a point off you because you've been over too many times. And he's not even hitting you. And it was just like, I'm not wanting to go over, but every time it gets rough and tough, my knee just couldn't take it.
Yeah.
I didn't realise how weak it actually had become. And that was the problem with that fight. If I'd come back and had someone who was going to box and it had been a boxing match, I'd have been fine. But he'd come forward, he tried to box me, I beat him at that. And every time it got rough and tumble, he kind of like pushed me over. Not particularly as in push, but no, just the rough and toughness of boxing. And I was going over. And I just think the consistency of being pushed over the way I was just tainted my performance in the judge's eyes, and they just gave it to him. I don't think he actually landed more punches than me or anything. It's just a case of because I was pushed over as much time as I want, and they thought I was just diving on the floor.
No, a bad night, like I say, to look back on. But when you returned to the UK, you signed up to boxing Prize Fighter. Obviously, anything really can happen over 3 rounds. You beat Nathan Graham, you beat Kevin McIntyre, but losing the final to Yassin El-Machi. Is it fair to say at this point here, Junior, you're past your prime years, really?
Yeah, I suppose it really. I look and I think I was still being all right. I think. If you get me, I think I needed to be in fights. That meant something. I needed that interest to make that drive to make me actually stand up and take notice of where I was. But I looked at that fight and I looked at El-Machi and I didn't particularly like him. I got in that fight, and I couldn't believe I didn't get the decision on that night. Everybody thought I was done. Everybody realistically thought I was finished for that. And I was just a name to beat. I went in. Nathan Graham won a hard fight. He came for it. I pulled my shoulder out just that little bit. Got through that, won that. Got him with Kevin McIntyre, dealt with that. I got in with Matchy, and my shoulder started paining me again. I hit him with a shot, but I didn't catch him clean. It hurt him. And I thought, if I caught you with full power with that one, I'd took you out. But it didn't. I boxed. It went on. I threw a shot. The canvas, flicked on the canvas, went through the ropes, jumped back in, carried on. And I still thought I did enough to win. And so did a lot of people on that night. But it went its way, and I just thought, well, you're not the favourite. You're not going to get anything close. It's a bit like it used to be. You've got to win everything by a mile to get that 1-point victory. So just get on with it.
And did you like the prize fighter format? Obviously, like I say, it's quite a risky one, really. You wouldn't really want to go into a tournament like that if you were, an undefeated fighter at the time with hopes of going on to become a world champion or something. It's the kind of thing that can really mess those kind of plans up. It's a risky format.
It is a risky format, and I kind of like it for that. But I do. But it doesn't suit most fighters, and realistically, it shouldn't suit me because I'm a boxer.
Yeah.
And that suits fighters. People just come in, throw a lot of punches, take some punches, but they can do that for 4 rounds. Yeah, but they can't do that for 8 rounds. Those fighters, it really suits. And I like the challenge of that. So I did kind of like it, but yeah, it's all wrong.
Yeah.
It's all wrong for me. If you're a 12-round fighter, you've got your timing, your distance, your stamina, your skill comes into it. Yeah. Whereas that, it takes that all away, and it's all about it's a sprint.
Yeah, exactly.
You've gone from having from being a long-distance runner to you're in a sprint with somebody, and someone has beaten a sprint, but they've got no chance over a long distance, and that's what it is.
Yeah.
But I did actually like it on the night, strangely.
No, you summed that up. It is like that.
Yeah.
Definitely. I wonder what ever happened to El Matchy. He seemed to just disappear off the face of the earth, to be honest.
He never boxed again.
Yeah.
I don't think he ever boxed after that.
But anyway, you boxed 7 more times professionally after that, obviously winning the British title once again in a rematch against Colin Lyons, but then losing it to Frankie Gavin. You also boxed in Germany against the undefeated Timo Schwarzkopf, racked up a majority decision loss.
Geez. Have you seen that fight?
I don't think I've seen that one.
I have got that fight, and it is the biggest robbery I have ever seen. I've got it, and send me a link. I'll send you it. It's one of those fights where you cannot believe the scorecards. It's just unbelievable. You have to see it to actually believe it. I can't say enough about it. See it to believe it. So yeah, I went over to Germany. I boxed, and everybody at this point in time was finished. Timo Schwarzkopf, big up and coming. 21-year-old, should have basically been putting grandpa out to sleep. And I boxed his head off and got robbed. I came back, had a couple more fights, and got a bit of a groove. I got back into my groove, but just that little bit, and I thought, yeah, okay, I don't mind boxing. I want to box. I don't want to be sat around waiting for months for this, for that. I just want to fight. And I struggled to get off the ground after that.
Yeah. And then, like I say, your final fight, April 17th, 2015, against Ahmed Al-Massoui in France. On that occasion, a split decision over 12. What were your thoughts on that one? Was that, were you at that kind of stage? What's the word I'm looking for? Was it easy to walk away permanently after that, or was it hard to retire?
The thing was, I didn't choose to retire till 2018. Yeah. Realistically, I had that fight, and in my eyes, and in most people's eyes that I know have watched that fight, turned around and said, I won it.
Yeah.
He had some good bits in it, and but in my eyes, I won it by three rounds-ish. And a lot of people said, yeah, I'll give it by 1, I'll give it by 2. 3 out of it 4. It's somewhere in that, but everybody says that I know says, yeah, you won it. And I got a bit annoyed with the board on that one because I didn't see them protecting me in my interest in that fight and demanding a rematch as it should have been. You know what I mean? So I got a bit annoyed with them. And then I had a couple of months where I didn't particularly look for anything. Then I kicked back in, I got into training. I got fit, I was sharp. I was still at that same level, which is, not at my peak, but it's still at a very good level. And I thought, if I get a fight now, I'll take it. I don't care who it is. I want the British title. And I'll try to get the British title fight. But when you're not the young kid on the block, new kid on the block, realistically, I'm an old man in boxing terms. And everyone says when I was 32, I was too old to win a world title. And that was 2006, and this is 2016, 2017. Yeah, so it's like over 10 years ago they were telling you were too old. No one wants to risk backing you and putting the money behind you so you can get your title fights. I've tried to get fights, spoke to Frank Warren, I spoke to Francis Warren, spoke to Eddie, and they just didn't want to do it with the British champion because both had the British champion, Sam Egerton, at one point. Then it changed to, I can't remember now. So at that particular point, I was trying to get the British title fight, and I knew without a doubt that I'd have won that. But the powers that be, which was the money in that respect, wasn't backing me. So therefore, and the board wasn't particularly sticking up for me. I didn't get them fights. I carried on training for a couple more years, and then I just decided, 2018, if I don't get a fight, any fight, penciled in for at least by my birthday in March, or my birthday, I'm done. And came to March 2018, I went, boom, that's it, I'm done. Move on to the next stage. I was at this stage, I'm already training amateurs at the Ingle gym. I'm the head coach down there. Things are going all right in that respect. And then I decided that was it, stay there for a little bit. Me and the couple of the amateur coaches had a little bit of a disagreement just after Brendan passed, and it was like, I'm just going to go. It was just, I'm just going to go set my own gym up, and that's what happened. I've been happy ever since.
So I want to ask you a couple questions about, just looking back over your career just a bit there. Obviously, nowadays it's Kell Brook and Amir Khan, the fight that seems like it's never going to happen. Obviously, everyone wanted to see you and Ricky Hatton get it on. In your eyes, in your opinion, on your side, why did that fight never end up happening, Junior?
Yeah, I've said it loads of times. Basically, between Hatton and his team, didn't want it to happen. That's it. That's it. And I think for me, it's like, it's all hat. I'm not bothered by the fact that I would have liked it to happen at the time, obviously, but I'm not bothered by the fact it didn't happen. Yeah. Because I went on, I achieved British, Commonwealth, European and world title. Yeah. And the best world title. Yeah. So it's one fight that didn't happen out of a couple of... the Mayweather fight should have happened. It should have happened for the WBC world title. It could have happened before that. There was a fight that Frank was trying to put it on. Didn't happen. So that could have happened. And in ways that would have been a bigger fight. It's just one of many that could have happened that didn't happen. Shane Mosley almost happened at one point, and I thought, brilliant. I mean, Shane Mosley was absolutely a brilliant fighter. So I looked at it and I thought, it's one of many that didn't happen.
At what point in both of your careers do you feel would have been the best time to make that fight?
If you're looking at publicity and hype and financially, it'd have been straight after I won WBC. Yeah. And that would have been the most lucrative time for it to happen. Mm-hmm. And at that point, it would have sold Wembley out for 100,000 just to annoy Carl Froch.
All right.
It was huge.
And I want to ask, who was the best fighter that you felt you boxed in your pro career of all your fights? Best fighter, who comes to mind?
On the night, Vivian Harris.
Vivian Harris. Okay.
I think that night he'd have beat anybody else in the world except me.
Yeah. No, like I said, that was a tremendous performance there. Is there anyone that you would have liked to have fought but never got the chance to? I was going to say it's probably Ricky, but you mentioned there Shane, you mentioned there Floyd. Yeah, it's one of those three, I'm guessing.
Yeah, it is. You see, different reasons. They're the three, and there's three different reasons. Hatton, obviously, because of the public interest in the local rivalry. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mayweather, because of his legacy. Yeah. Of Mayweather's legacy, so that's why I will like that one more. Yeah. And then Mosley, because I think Mosley, in his peak, was probably the best out of the three. And I've got to go with, I look at it like that. I think beating Mosley would have meant asking more to me. So Mosley, a peak Mosley, peak me, brilliant, loved it. That would be the fight that I would, if I could be in my peak condition, him in his peak condition, that's the fight.
And I was going to ask also, I ask this question to everyone when we do these types of interviews. Have you got any regrets at all? If you could go back and change anything, is there anything you regret doing or something like that in your career? The best answer I like to hear is when people say, no, I've got no regrets, but you may have some. What's the answer?
I got loads. I got loads of them. I wanted them Superman through the ropes. Yeah. There's loads of, there's always little tweaks you'd have had all the way through. Yeah. But major change, the only major change would have been that I made more money. That's it, because all I did was I boxed whoever I could, whenever I could, and never ran away from anyone. So it was nothing to do with me why nothing didn't happen. So personally, the only thing that bothers, I'd have liked to make a bit more money, but I'm not bothered, because I'm not skin, I'm not poor, I'm happy, I've got a good woman, and yeah, I mean, life's good, apart from being on lockdown.
Yeah, of course. And coming down to the last couple of questions, Junior, you mentioned there life's good. You mentioned before you were doing little bits in the Ingle gym with amateurs and stuff. What are you up to nowadays in terms of, what's keeping you busy, obviously, when we're not in lockdown?
So I've got my own gym,
yeah.
Witter's boxing gym in Rotherham. Mm-hmm. I've got a stable of amateurs, which is coming through, and it started from novices, but in the last, most of them started novices in the last 18 months, and I'm bringing them through. I've got a couple of pros. I've got Dom Hunt, who's 5-0 at welterweight. I just can't wait to get him back in the ring. He's gonna upset some people. He's a very good fighter. Nowhere near had the publicity he deserves, but he's going to be really good. I've got another fighter called Matt Hunter. He's had one, and if you hear his story of how hard it's been for him to get to the fact he's 1-0, yeah, it's unbelievable. It's taken him, realistically, I think his last amateur fight was 9 years ago, and I finally got him in the ring on the 6th of March this year. And he's been around. He's had a pro license for a couple of years, and he's a very good fighter. Not a massive name yet, but in a really good, exciting fight. Who's winning some great fights, and if someone actually sees him and he gets the right build-up, it'll be an exciting fight to have on the British scene, and I just want to get him some fights. So I've got other people who are probably going to turn pro within the next year and a bit, but that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, good to hear it.
That's it. I'm still involved with boxing, still love it. Like everything in life, I mean, it has its ups and its downs and its parts that you don't like, but I do love the sport.
Yeah, and you're a happy man these days. You seem it.
Yeah, I'm blessed. Yeah, I'm blessed. I've done a job I love for over 20 years, and in being the best in the world at it, And then I've retired. Yeah, we can all make more money. We all want to make more money, but I've got enough. I've got myself a good woman, and I'm happy.
Yeah, good. That's the most important thing. And I want to ask this because we had Johnny Nelson on last week's show, and he really sings the praises of Brendan Ingle.
Right.
Obviously, you were part of that. You were part of that setup there, and Johnny was saying pretty much, Brendan deserves to be mentioned amongst the greatest trainers that ever lived. He may be the best trainer that ever lived. How much of an influence did he have on your life? Because obviously, with Johnny openly admits he had absolutely no talent. He would have been nowhere without Brendan. How big of an impression did Brendan make on your life as well, Junior?
Brendan made a big impression on my life. When I look back at it, I just think he's just got moments of wisdom just planted through all the way through stages. And like when I first turned pro, I turned pro with Brendan. And then as time went on, John and Dom kind of took over. Yeah? And I did more with them and less with Brendan. But it's like when I won the British title, Brendan was there. It's like when I won the world title, Brendan was there. But the British title on that night, it was me and Brendan. And he just told me 2 things to do in the fight. And they worked an absolutely treat. And they were part of the end for Alan Bosworth when I look at it in that respect. Not saying it still wouldn't have happened, but it just made it easier. He saw things happening that you just had no idea were going to happen. He told me in 1999 that Floyd Mayweather were going to move up to all the weights and win world titles all the way up to welterweight. In 1999 he told me that. And I looked at him and I just went, Brendan's a super feather. He's never going to come up to 10 stone 7. He's going to get past 10 stone because I'm going to beat him if he comes to 10 stone. But not thinking that. In reality, he's thinking he's not going to put on that much weight and work through the weights the way he fights. Because if you look at him when he was super feather, he was a phenomenal fighter. He was banging people out. He had power. He was absolutely brilliant. And as he moved up, his style changed. He tweaked what he was doing. Picked his fights, obviously. And he became the money machine that he became. But Brendan saw that happening from 98, because he told me in 99. We'd already decided that before that, so I'm like, I don't know how you do it, Brendan, but you see these things. And it's like, just words of wisdom about training, about doing stuff. He allowed me to be me. He just took what I had and he added to it. He didn't try, right, you're not switching. Everyone knew Brendan switched, but I always switched before I went to Brendan. And he was like, now you just need to do this before you switch. And this bit here, and just work on that. And it's like, just them little nuggets here and there throughout my career. Priceless.
Yeah, that's, again, what Johnny was saying last week is that, sometimes he'd say things that sounded crazy, but they'd end up happening. He just seemed to, realise things and know things before they even happened. He seemed to get a lot right. A true excellent man and trainer.
He did, and he understood that. What I liked about him is he'd spend a little bit of time with me. He spent more time with Isham. He spent loads of time with Johnny. Spent a lot of time in ours. Different fighters needed different amounts of attention. Yeah. And he'd never say, I spent 10 minutes with you, so I've got to spend 10 minutes with you, I've got to spend 10 minutes with him. He went, you need 10 minutes, you need 2 minutes, you need half an hour, you need 3 minutes. And that's how we did it, because that's what you needed. And he spent little nuggets with me here and there and there. He spent more time with Isham Pickering, with John Thaxton, with Johnny, and with Johnny, especially at that stage, especially after that, Johnny was with him like touched at the hip. Within ways, he spent a lot of time with Johnny. Amir Khan, he spent a lot of time with him, and different people he spent a different amount of time with, because he just says that's what you need, and he did that a little bit with me, and then he said you don't need any more. Yeah, I don't need to. The thing I like about you, I remember Alma saying, the thing I like about you is you come along, you sit, he tells you this little bit, and then he leaves you alone. And he doesn't have to come back and start repeating it and talking to you and spending days with you. And I'm like, well, he's told me, hasn't he? So I listen to him and get what I can from it.
Yeah. like I say, a real excellent trainer. And just finally, Junior, if you've got any closing words to our listeners just before we let you go, if it's any well wishes, if it's any words of wisdom, perhaps anything you want to say just before we let you go, and then you'll be free.
You live once, enjoy it. Think about what you're doing first. Be safe in this time of trouble that we're in right now. Enjoy what you've got. Take a look around. You look at the good stuff that's in your life. There's a lot more good than bad. Have fun. And keep a lookout for my fighters coming through.
Yeah.
All the best.
Absolutely. Listen, Junior, it's been a complete pleasure and a joy speaking with you and going over your entire career this week. Thank you so much for your time, and I wish you the very best for the future, my friend.
Thank you. Cheers.
Okay, now it's time for part 2 on this week's show. We promised to whiz through this a lot quicker than we did part 1. This part's going to be about fights that we want to see when boxing resumes. We're going to start at heavyweight because it's only right to do so, but we're probably only going to go to about 2, 3 or 4 weight classes. Maybe we'll save some of the lower weights, like getting down to middleweight and welterweight, the rest of it. Maybe we'll save that for another week. But yeah. Let's start at heavyweight. So you can just throw these out to me, Eddie. Some fights that you want to see at heavyweight. I think the fight that we all want to see is obviously Fury Joshua.
Yes. And still kind of want to see Joshua Wilder too. I still kind of want to. I still want to see that. I still do. But yeah, definitely that.
Yeah, I'd love to see that. I'd like to see Joshua Wilder for the right to fight Tyson Fury, to be honest with you.
Yeah. It's like that. I think the Joshua Wilder fight happening, like you said, first for the right to fight Tyson would be more logical. That makes sense. And I gotta ask you a question, Mr. Joe. Who would you favor in that fight?
Joshua Wilder.
Yes.
Well, and I'll be completely honest, no one really asked me questions on here. I need some questions more often.
Yeah, you deserve it too. Yeah. Yes.
But no, me being honest, I mean, when the fight first got spoke about, obviously Joshua was undefeated and Wilder was undefeated at the time. I favoured Joshua, definitely, at the time. But since Joshua losing to Andy Ruiz and the way he lost and stuff like that, and I don't think he's shown a fantastic chin all the time. You look back at fights where he seemed to get bothered by shots, like against Dillian White, like against, I think Alexander Povetkin had him in trouble at one point. Obviously Klitschko, we already know about that one. Obviously Andy Ruiz. I think there was even moments in the Takam fight where he might have been hurt. But anyway, I just think, I mean, you're going to agree with me probably with what I'm saying here, but Joshua is the much better boxer than Wilder, obviously. But
obviously,
can he dish out more punishment than Wilder throws? I'm not sure. So someone definitely gets knocked out. I think it probably would be Joshua, just because he can't dance around like Fury did. And even when Fury tried that in the first fight, he was on the deck 2 times and all that. Can Joshua win every round apart from 2 rounds where he gets hit in? Because he will get hit at some stage. He can't do what Tyson did. So
exactly,
and he's not big and long, and it's just not that. It's just not that style for him. I know he did it against. He showed it to an extent against Andy Ruiz, but Andy Ruiz is a much smaller guy than Wilder. And remember, Wilder is bigger than Joshua.
100%, definitely taller and longer. Yeah, and with that being said, you also got to look at Andy Ruiz and what he was that night. Now he's still, at the end of the day, he got in there and it was Andy Ruiz, so he still should have won the fight, or could have won the fight, maybe, by knockout. However it should have been, but you got to give him the credit Joshua did outbox him. But with a guy like Wilder, who's going to be in there, who's going to be in shape, who's going to be focused, who's going to be looking for that blood, because that's really the only way he's going to go and win, I got to lean toward Wilder in that. I got to.
Yeah.
And that is, it's the only way to go, in my opinion.
Yeah, so like I say, I backed Joshua when the fight was first spoke about, but now the pendulum has swung and I'm now backing Wilder to win that one. But just a quick story for those that may not know. There's I'm going to expose it now. A little truth here about Andy Ruiz in that rematch. Okay. Some people don't know this, but I was told that he flew to where did the fight happen again? Saudi Arabia. He flew to Saudi Arabia.
Yes,
a long time. A lot with a lot of time basically before the fight came around. So he got himself there nice and early to acclimatise, and basically they gave him the whole top floor of this hotel. So he had the whole top floor to himself, and he flew. He decided to fly. We all know he likes food. He decided to fly his chef out there, his personal chef out there as well, which is an odd choice. And basically he sat in that room for I think maybe 2 to 3 weeks or whatever, eating a lot more than he was training, and then he seemed to just go backwards with, he was in decent shape, but he seemed to, at the weigh-in and all that, when he weighed in, everyone was shocked. So, that's what I heard. He actually flew his chef out there, and he was enjoying good food and stuff like that. And, I've also heard other things. I've heard other things that he's, turned up to the gym where he trains. He's turned up to the gym with a different car every day and stuff like that. I'm not quite sure he was. His mind was in the right mind. Yeah, exactly. Right. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. Stuff happens. Heavyweight boxing. Credit to Joshua. Other fights I want to see. I want to see Michael Hunter box just about everyone in the heavyweight division. So I'm not going to go through all those.
Aside from me.
Aside from me, that's a fight I never want to see. Yeah. But yeah, I'd like to. Obviously, we've seen him fight Povetkin. We've seen him fight Usyk at cruiserweight. Where again, I don't know if people know this, but Mike went down to cruiserweight. It was a silly move. He was never really a cruiserweight. He's a guy that's kind of caught in between. If there was some kind of
tweener. Yeah,
if there was some kind of if the heavyweight division was split into heavyweight and super heavyweight, if he was down there at regular heavyweight, he'd be tremendous. He's giving away, just like yourself. Exactly. You're both in the same boat. And anyway, he fought Usyk at cruiserweight, and he obviously weighed in, and then I think he went asleep that night or whatever, woke up in the morning. I can't remember what happened. He's told me it before. I don't think he likes telling the story too much, but he was lighter on the day of the fight than he was for the for the actual weigh-in. He'd lost weight. He didn't eat properly, and he'd fell asleep. Earlier on in the day, I think he goes for a nap before going to the fights. And he was asleep, and he was supposed to have been woke up at a certain time to eat and drink, but no one woke him up. They woke him up when it was time to leave and go to the venue, so he turned up there without eating anything. So pretty much, he got woke up out of his sleep to go to the fight, and he was so severely underprepared on the day. No one woke him up. It was irresponsible of everyone around him, and he basically boxed on nothing. He said he felt it after 2 rounds. He felt right then and there that he was. I think he even said he didn't think he was going to make it. He thought he'd probably even end up getting stopped. He felt terrible, but he still probably won the first 4 or 5 rounds easy. He was out hustling Usyk, and then he went out again.
That's good.
And then Usyk, the referee could have stopped it. In all honesty, Usyk was hitting Mike way too often on the ropes, and he gave Mike a standing 8 count, which we don't see too much. And that was a 10-8 round, so Usyk ended up winning it unanimously. But a lot of people haven't seen that fight, and they don't know really what what Mike did in that fight, because he made Usyk look second best while he was fresh, while they were both fresh. But anyway, so we've got Fury up there. I just want to see him really fight Joshua. I don't want to see him fight anyone else, to be honest with you. Wilder, we like the Joshua fight. I don't really want to see him in with anyone else. Usyk, who would I like to see him fight? I know he was supposed to box Chisora. I think he wins that one really easy anyway, but I don't. That's not really mind that fight for him, to be honest.
Yeah, it's a good, obviously Chisora getting the resurgence a little bit, but it's still not. It's not something you when you think of a guy like Usyk coming from cruiser and how great he was at cruiser. You want to see him fight the best of the best. Sometime a little too early, you know what I mean? But you still want to kind of see those fights. If you're talking about fantasy fights, we want to see him in there with the names, with the real guys. You know what I'm saying? The
problem is,
go ahead.
The problem is, I don't really care about seeing him with Tyson Fury. I don't think that's so much of an action fight, so I don't really want to see him have that fight.
Not that.
I don't mind him in with Joshua, but we want Joshua to fight Wilder, Usyk, and Fury.
Right.
Joshua can't fight all these guys, so.
Yeah, no, 100%. But there's some other fights out there for him. But
who would
you
say? Who do you want to see him with?
Oh man, if I'm a, let me think. Like mentioning the top 10. Damn, that's a.
I was thinking about Andy Ruiz, but that's either going to be a brilliant fight or a terrible fight.
That's definitely. I think it has. I don't want to say zero chance, but it's a very low chance of it being a bad fight. Because Andy Ruiz is going to bring it, period. That's just the way he is. No matter who he fights, you can outbox him.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Do you not think he's a bit slow? His feet are a bit slow. Do you not think Usyk could just dance around him and tattoo him?
He can try, but remember, he's been in there with 6'6" guys. Usyk's not that tall. He's not that rangy. He is crafty and he can move. But if Andy Ruiz is smart and he gets himself in the proper shape and doesn't eat his way away from the title or the victory, he'll have just as good a shot as anybody to beat him. You know what I'm saying? Because he has the hand speed. If he gets his weight to a manageable, I'm not saying he has to go down to 230 or anything like that, because that's a stretch for him. But just be manageable where he can move and he can get in. You know what I mean? And make. Listen, he has the power and the pop to get respect. There's no doubt about it. He can definitely make that. Would be actually a very interesting fight. Very interesting.
I said I want to see Michael Hunter box pretty much anyone. I'd love to see him in with Chisora. I think he wins that fight easy. I'd like to see him in with Chisora. I'd love to see him in with Joshua, but again, I want to see everyone fight Joshua. A fight,
that's a good thing for Joshua.
Yeah, a fight I want to see. This is a bit kind of, a bit off the scale of the kind of big names really that we've been discussing there, but this is a good fight, and these are the kind of fights that I like. These ones appeal to me sometimes even more than the best fighting the best, because they're like the odd fighting the odd. But
right,
I don't know if you've seen much of him, but he gave Dillian White a brilliant fight, and to be honest, he was he had an argument. Did he win?
I know who you're talking
Oscar
about.
Rivas against Joseph Parker.
Yeah. I was gonna say
that's a good fight.
Joseph Parker would have been interesting actually too with dang, I can't even get his with Andy. Well, he already fought, but with no, I was gonna say with Usyk, but what's his name? I can't. I'm losing my whole mind. But go ahead. Finish what you were gonna say about the guys, and it'll come back.
I've always wanted to see the two. At the time, anyway, this is when, before Joseph Parker was really on the scene, I always wanted to see the two Ps fight each other, and the two Ps in my head was Povetkin and Pulev. I still wouldn't say no to that.
Yeah, it's yeah, I mean, it's almost a wonder why that hasn't happened.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, there's all kind of different reasons why, of course, it didn't happen, but, I mean, it's still out there, as long as Povetkin's staying around, I mean, it's still a possibility. I don't see it not happening, you know what I mean? I mean, it's like you said, it's a good fight to put together. Pretty sure it'd be an action fight. You know what I mean? Why not?
Yeah, I like that fight. Again, like Joe Joyce is another one. I'd say I'd chuck him in with pretty much anyone. But again, he's supposed to be having that fight with Daniel Dubois.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's
actually not a bad. That's up and coming guys like, yeah. I mean, why not?
Yeah.
Take it back to the old days. Go ahead.
And there's just a bunch of guys that I'd love to see in with. Do you know who I'd like to see as well? I had to just think to myself, have they already boxed before? Because for a minute my mind went blank there. But just even, I'll give you a couple of Americans I wouldn't mind seeing each other box. Dominic Breazeale and Charles Martin. Why not?
I don't think they fought that. I mean, why don't? Yeah. Why, look, at the end of the day, like Charles Martin just won a fight. I mean, Dominic Breazeale's still out there. Why not?
Yeah.
This is the kind of stuff that happened, though, back in the day. I mean, these people fought each other. Why? Don't avoid it. Just fight. I mean, you're going to get paid. The winner's going to obviously have an opportunity for bigger things. Just go ahead and do it. I mean, look what I did. I had to do it. I had to fight everybody. You know what I mean? There's no other option. You know what I mean? I know sometimes it seems like, why would I risk, an opportunity at a title fighting this guy? You know what I mean? And yes, if you have an opportunity at a title, if it's a realistic opportunity, then yeah. But if somebody like Dominic Breazeale, who we already seen him get stopped by both, you know what I mean, or two of the top guys, and the other one he hasn't fought yet, then it's like, well, you got to get your respect again to get yourself back in position for that. And if there's a guy like Charles Martin out there, why not? Take it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, a couple of fights I want to see. Again, I'm just kind of not really thinking this through too much, but Tyson Fury out of the equation. I'd like to see Wilder Joshua. I'd like to see Usyk with Andy Ruiz. I'd like to see Povetkin take on Dillian White, which we were going to see before this pandemic came around. I'd like to see Hunter and Chisora.
Nice.
I'd like to see Parker and Ortiz. I'd like to see Joyce and Dubois, which we were going to see. I'd like to see Charles Martin and Dominic Breazeale. I'd like to see...
Let's just have you be the matchmaker, Mr. Joe. You can do all these fights sound interesting.
I'd like to see Hughie Fury in with... I'd like to see him in there with Martin Bacoli from a UK standpoint, but I wouldn't mind seeing him in there with Gerald Washington, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, I don't necessarily think Hughie's at so much of what they call a crossroads where he's like, oh, his career could be... No. He's still young.
I think a big name,
but
a US, an American fighter, a big name on your record. Why not, In fact,
100% no. I mean,
actually, I'll tell you another story that people don't know. Gerald actually asked me to basically ask Hughie for the fight for him, and
really?
He said, yeah, man, if you know him, man, try and say something to him for me, man. And Gerald's a nice guy, so I just happened to bump into Hughie Fury like the week after, and I said, hey, by the way, Hughie, Gerald Washington wants to fight you. So I basically called Hughie out to his face, Eddie, and
wow. And what did Hughie say?
Hughie said, who is that? And I said,
"Oh my God!"
I remember saying, "I said, he boxed Wilder. I should have said he boxed Eddie, but I said he boxed Wilder.
Yeah.
He boxed Wilder last year, I think it was at the time, and he got stopped by him or whatever. And then I don't know, Hughie. I don't know if Hughie was too impressed with me, to be honest, that day, but it is what it is. Yeah.
I can't say he was. To be honest, I thought Gerald was doing a good job in the fight with Wilder until he got caught.
He won every round.
But how many other guys were that,
Yeah.
But, what can you say?
Yeah, but anyway, that's pretty much the heavyweight division we've done. To be honest, Eddie, I think we should probably pull the plug right there. We've discussed it. We've discussed it quite in depth, to be honest. I mean, if we go down to cruiserweight, it's not going to be as in depth at cruiserweight because the names aren't big compared to the heavyweights. But let's leave cruiserweight and light heavyweight and some of the other divisions for perhaps another week. I'm sure we're going to get a chance to to sit down and speak again at some point during this whole pandemic.
100%, man. What else are we doing? So we can definitely talk boxing. I like it.
Absolutely. Well, Eddie, just before we end the show, if you want to sign out, if you want to say something before we let you go, now's your time to do so. It's in front of the listeners here.
I just want to say thanks, Joe, for bringing me on.
Oh, thank you, man.
Keeping my name relevant to a degree. You and Coach Ant doing y'all thing with me. And just to the fans, I'm hoping at some point, if I still have some supporters out there, which I think I do, I'm hoping at some point to get back into the ring once this whole pandemic thing comes down, calms down.
You're announced.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do.
I thought you were being quite hush on that subject.
Well, I am. I am to a degree, but at the same time, it's like I feel like if I'm going to do it at all, it needs to happen. So when this calms down, I'm going to really take a good look at myself, not just in the mirror, but on the bag and in the gym to see how I feel, get some sparring in. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm always keeping my body in some sort of shape and I'm always eating right, but it's time to really see if I have anything left in there. and I feel great. I feel better than I did, you know, in the beginning, at the prime time, I guess, you know, if you want to say. But I just really want to see what's left. I just want to see what's there, and if anything can be made of this. And so we'll see. But thanks to all the supporters, not only supporting me, but also supporting this podcast and my man, Joe. And look forward to talking to you guys again.
Well said. Well, there you go. There's a little exclusive there. We may see the ring return of Fast Eddie Chambers. That will be interesting. That's something I've known about for a little while, but I didn't think you was telling anyone that. So I don't really mention it. But you know, you that's a little exclusive. Right, well, you gave him.
Yeah, I like that exclusive thing. I like to be exclusive, sir. But no. The reality of it is, I'm not getting any younger, as you know. So it's like, you know, what am I waiting on? If it's going to happen, it's going to happen. And, you know, I might as well just go ahead and, you know, push for it now. You know what I mean? While we're in this situation at home, why not just start working on my body? I'm already doing the diet thing. Just work on my body and prepare to return if it's possible.
Okay. Well, like I say, Eddie, it's always an absolute pleasure speaking with you. You know that anyway. You know, speaking to you about boxing or whatever it is always a pleasure. So thanks once again for taking part in this week's podcast. But like I say, that's it for the talking. That is everything. We brought you part 1 where we discussed Hughie Fury's potential future. We also brought in guest number 1. The sole guest on this week's show, I should say, and then we've given you some of the heavyweight fights we want to see when this pandemic comes to a close. That is all the talking from myself and Eddie. Thank you very much. Okay, and this wraps up episode 239 of the BoxHard Podcast. I've been your host, Joey Coastman. The former heavyweight world title challenger, Eddie Chambers, has been with me for the duration of the show. A massive thank you to our sole guest on this week's podcast, the former super lightweight WBC world champion, Junior Witter. Sorry for the delay on releasing the podcast. We've had all kinds of issues this week, actually, so we've given you a lot to listen to make up for that, I guess. You know, if you are still listening now, if you are still listening to me speak right now, then you are a star in my eyes, and I just want to thank you all so much for listening. Remember to tell a friend about the podcast. Enjoy your weekends, people, and we will be back again next week.